How important is India?
The Russian side puts a premium on India by many reasons.
Do you think it's an opportunity for Putin to tell the West that despite all attempts to isolate us, we still have influential friends?
He is more interested in Russia-India ties and Narendra Modi himself. Putin is fully occupied with Indian affairs and actually does not care about the West.
Russia's dependence on China seems to be growing as a result of the Ukraine war.
No country should rely on just one partner, but we should trade ties with India comparable to China's.
What are your expectations from the Putin-Modi summit?
I don't think that we will know about their decision today.
How do you see the Ukraine war ending? Is it ever going to end?
It could take 2 years more. I will not answer that question. It depends.
You're watching Times of India Newspoint, and I'm Aditi Prasad. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Moscow. The visuals are there on everyone's TV screens to see. The beer hugs, the smiles, the bonhomie between Prime Minister Narendra Modi on one end and, of course, the Russian President Vladimir Putin on the other. It's a very critical visit, as emphasized by the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, and I just want to get the sense from how important is this visit for Russia, for Moscow, for Vladimir Putin. I am joined by Gleb Makarevich, expert with the Russian International Affairs Council. Gleb, the visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi coincides with the summit of NATO leaders in Washington. What's the messaging here, especially for the West?
So, first of all, I should say that this summit is indeed critical in itself. It was 5 times when Narendra Modi came to Russia last time, to Vladivostok then, and the leaders of 2 countries, I mean Russia and India, had conversations on the sidelines of different summits, but they could not engage one-to-one. This coincidence between NATO and Modi summit, I think, is, barely very important in this context, because the Western countries, in their NATO and the EU platforms, have their own agenda. We do not just watch NATO summits or EU summits and do not concentrate on the others developments in Ukraine. And we've got a far broader agenda to discuss.
How important is India or ties with India for Russia?
India ranks first. It shares this place with China. So, and no wonder India is a rising economy with huge markets, huge technological advanced development. So India is really critical for Russia in all the dimensions. First of all, political, of course, because we've got traditionally, historically close and warm ties. Economically, we supply no wonder oil and gas to India, and ready to implement further steps to increase bilateral ties. Trade ties, and explore new areas of cooperation. And when it comes to security sphere, of course, we are having consultations on all the issues of global importance, of regional importance, and on defense cooperation and defense industrial sector cooperation. Russian side puts a premium on India by many reasons.
India's rising stature on the global stage. This summit at this time, when Russia is increasingly isolated by the West, especially with regard to the war in Ukraine, do you think it's an opportunity for Putin to tell the West that despite all attempts to isolate us, we still have influential friends?
Probably you're right, but I could assume that President Putin is not so, enthusiastic about the West's attention right now, and he is more interested in Russia-India ties and Narendra Modi himself. I mean, we've got another interlocutors who could convey some message to the West. If we take recent visits by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban to Moscow last week, yeah, that could be considered in this context. But when it comes to India, I think that President Putin is fully occupied with Indian affairs and actually does not care about the West.
Okay, well, tell us. You observed President Putin. You observed his foreign policy, and especially his personal rapport with Modi. If there's a thought there.
So personally, for Putin, I think that he regards India as, I mean, another pool of the future polycentric world, or the currently, building polycentric world, and he puts a premium on such a chance to have another perspective, another vision of the world, and another voice of the global south. India seems to be the most important, the most powerful in political, economic, and security terms. That is why Putin regards India as a lone friend. And you should bear in mind that we've got tremendous rise in relations with China, and of course we should somehow hedge these relations by by developing ties with India, with another Asian giant.
Interesting that you mentioned China because this meeting between or this summit between
Mhm.
Putin and Modi comes at a time when Russia's dependence on China seems to be growing as a result of the Ukraine war. Isn't this a concern? Because this is a concern for New Delhi, given the tensions along the
Mhm.
LAC with China. And you talked about hedging.
Mhm.
How difficult is this walk?
So, first of all, I should point out that Russia's dependence on China could be viewed in a negative way only through some economic lens. I mean, no country should rely on just one partner in all spheres, right? But I should, assure you that dependence in some sectors, let's take car sectors, some technological spheres, would never uh, convert into political dependence. No way. Would never convert into security dependence. No way. Would never convert into defense dependence. So, and while speaking about hedging, we should diversify our ties in technological sector, in our trade relations, and hedging means first of all diversifying. We put a premium on both partners. Both partners rank second, as I have already said, in our concept of foreign policy. But we should make trade ties with India comparable to China's. And what I would advise New Delhi to work with this fear of Russia being dependent on China. Russia's dependence on China, from a Russian perspective, does not um, does not bring any negative connotation. We just admit that on many spheres in economy and especially in technological industries, we depend on China, but we trust China. But of course, some diversifying would contribute to Russian economy.
As you talked about increasing cooperation with both partners simultaneously, China as well as India. But one of the key issues, or rather two key issues that are stopping them from happening, from what we understand. One is the reliability of supplies, given the Ukraine war. That's expected. And the second thing is the payments issue. How do you think the payments issue needs to be resolved? Because that payments issue is becoming a big problem.
I should say that we've got some other issues, and I would point out such structural issues as so far non-compartment of Russian and Indian economies. We've got $65 billion of trade volume, right? But it's mostly about Russian oil going to India. Trust me that payments issues, supply issues could be overcome, and they are actually overcome when both sides are really interested in that. But if we take a broader perspective, I would say that both countries should work on creating a platform that would make them trade and cooperate in a larger sense swiftly. I shall assure you that Russian and Indian business circles can solve any problem at the moment. But yeah, we should work on some brighter prospects and some fairer infrastructure for, economic development.
A common currency being among them?
Um, I will not answer that question. It depends. It
All right.
depends.
Okay. What are your expectations from the Putin Modi summit that's scheduled for today?
So I hope for some decisions that could be rubber stamped only by leaders themselves. But I don't think that we will know about those decisions today. We will see some trends in the coming months.
All right. I can't leave you before asking a final question, which I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody who speaks to you, I know we're talking about the Putin Modi summit. How do you see the Ukraine war ending? Is it ever going to end? And how soon or how late?
So I hope so. And anyone here in Russia hopes for this conflict to end sooner or later, and better sooner. So far, two parties find themselves in the stuck, actually. Given that Russia has an upper hand in munition production, weapons production, in mobilization resources, we are moving and we are moving on all the fronts and taking assaults, but we are not going to see any game-changing, victory from either side and from Russia as well. So it could take 2 years more, 2 years more for Russia to dismantle Ukrainian armed forces. As long as Ukraine is sponsored by its Western partners, as long as they're ready to wage warfare, this conflict will continue.
2 years, you said, in this manner is really another long time. Too many bodies in between, obviously, too many deaths, too much destruction coming their way. Probably something needs to be worked out sooner, don't you think?
Yeah, something needs to be done sooner, and I mentioned 2 years, judging from the current dynamics. The current dynamics. It's likely that in 2 years, Ukrainian armed forces will be much weaker, and the Ukrainian leadership will have to negotiate with Russia.
The repercussions of the summit or the results of the summit we will continue to see in the days and months to come. You may not see any big announcement tonight, perhaps India time, but the results will keep coming because the leaders would have discussed certain things and put certain things in motion, which will benefit both the Indian as well as the Russian economies in times to come. Thank you so much, Gleb, for
Thank
talking to us. And thank you, viewers, for watching this broadcast. We will come back to you with more. Stay tuned to Times of India.